And welcome back to The Verdict. Kent Myers again flying solo, although not much longer. Mick will be back in a week or so. We're sure pleased you join us today on The Verdict. We have a very, very special guest. As I told you at the end of our show last week, we are pleased to have the Oklahoman of the Year join us this week, Dr. Ramona Paul. And we'll be talking with her about that honor as well as other things. But we're just glad you join us on a Sunday morning or whatever morning you're watching this, because it could be several others. Thanks for being loyal viewers and watching us. We think we're going to bring you an interesting show today, but we want to hear from you about shows you'd like to see. So we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'll have Ramona Paul with me, and we'll talk about her award as Oklahoman of the Year. You're watching The Verdict.
We didn't just wake up with this problem. Barrel by barrel, dollar by dollar, we've been exchanging American security for foreign oil. Enough. We're home to a 100-year supply of natural gas, and now we know its potential. Fuel, power, cleaner air. See how natural gas is making a difference at chk.com. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Kent Myers on the set of The Verdict without Mick Cornett, but he'll be back in a couple of weeks. We are very pleased today to have join us the Oklahoman of the Year, Dr. Ramona Paul. Dr. Paul is the Assistant State Superintendent of Professional Services Division for the State Department of Education. She did her undergraduate work in early childhood education at Oklahoma State University, got her master's in the same topic generally at Oklahoma State University, and then obtained her PhD in the same topic from Purdue University. And since that time, she's authored some 35 books and articles on the topic and is recognized as a nationwide expert in early childhood education and has been one of the primary architects of our very successful early childhood education program here in Oklahoma. She is very busy in her job, but she's also active in cultural and civic activities as well. And we're sure pleased you'd take time to come join us on The Verdict and talk to our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations to you.
Oh, again, thank you so much. I'm so pleased, very shocked, very surprised, very honored, but I'm also thrilled to keep early childhood in the news.
Well, you are the first educator and the first state employee to be selected as Oklahoman of the Year. That's quite a distinction.
Well, thank you. That was all news to me, so I didn't know anything about that either. I was very surprised. This whole honor has been a big surprise.
Well, I just did a little homework and went back and looked at some of the prior winners of the Oklahoman of the Year award, and I'm going to run down their names, a few of them. Clay Bennett, Carrie Underwood, David Bourne, Garth Brooks. You don't sing, do you?
No,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Mike Larson, the Chickasaw artist, Shannon Miller. That's quite an august group you're joining.
Well, again, I'm just so pleased and very honored that to be able to be recognized for what we have been able to accomplish in early childhood in Oklahoma. And I've received the honor, but many, many people have worked to accomplish our quality early childhood 4-year-old program in our public schools.
Well, tell us, before we get, I want to spend most of our time talking about that, but before we get to that, tell our viewers about how you were notified that you had been selected. Well,
it was in December because the magazine came out January, February, so it was the middle of December. Friday afternoon, I was in my office working, and in fact, a staff member was with me at the table. We were working on a project. And Louisa McCune, I say, sashayed into my office. She's a delightful, delightful person. I did not know her at all. She introduced herself and said, I've come to congratulate you because you've been selected to be the Oklahoman of the Year for the Oklahoma Today magazine. You were selected by the editorial board, and we do not recognize state elected officials. My boss is Sandy Garrett, a state elected official. And I just said, would you mind saying that one more time? So I had absolutely no knowledge of it whatsoever.
Well, it's a very well-deserved honor. I have known, and we have talked on this show a number of times about the very high rank that Oklahoma's early childhood education program receives nationally, and we're now able to talk to someone about it. And that's what I'd like to spend our time doing today, as well as other things that you want to talk about. When did early childhood education become a priority for you?
Well, I guess it's professionally it really began in 1980, but I will say my own childhood experiences. I went to what we called nursery school at the time I was a child at Oklahoma State University. It's the nursery school or the early childhood facility that's the training program for teachers. And then I actually taught there myself at OSU. I taught children in the morning and then college students in the afternoon. I found that an interesting experience. It was like teaching in a fishbowl because the students observed me, and then I would have to go to class, and the college students would observe me, and then I'd have to go to class and explain my behaviors to them. So that was good. So I had good experiences, and while I was teaching at OSU, I kept thinking how marvelous it would be if all children, like I was teaching 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, if they could have a quality program like I was teaching in at the university and also have a highly trained teacher.
Now, we really didn't have much of an early childhood education program statewide, did we, at that time?
No, not at all. Probably in about 1970 was when we first had kindergarten in the public schools. So after all my many experiences, I then became the early childhood specialist at the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Dr. Leslie Fisher was the state superintendent at that time, and again, a memorable experience. He walked into my office at 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon and said, Ramona, what would you like to do for children under age 5? And I said, well, I would like to have a program like we have for kindergarten. It would be in the public schools. Children could go if they wanted to. Parents made that decision, voluntary, and they would have a certified early childhood teacher. And he said, well, you write the model, and then we'll go and see if we can get it funded at the legislature, which he did as a pilot model. So that was the beginning, and then we just kept building. And I think the thing I'm the most proud of in relation to that is that when we designed the program, we did it with the very highest of standards. So start with the best, don't ever do anything less than the best for young children. And now with our brain research, we certainly know that that's what we should be doing. And then secondly, we did a collaboration in developing the program for the public schools, invited Head Start and child care to come to the table, and actually we wrote the standards together.
Well, now, were the standards at that, now what year are we talking about, approximately?
The pilot program began in 1980, funded by the legislature in 1980.
At that time, were there many other states that had this kind of a program?
No. No.
I mean, weren't you kind of a pioneer in that regard?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was.
And you wrote you were in charge of writing the standards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, now how has that developed over the years?
Well, the way that's developed is then in 1990, the legislature decided to fund, this was a pilot program from 1980 to 1990. And then in 1990, the legislature decided to provide funds for children who were income level Head Start eligible, children above that income level could go, but they would have to pay on a sliding scale. In 1998, they then made the decision to put the funds in what we call the formula, and then every child could attend if they wanted to. Voluntary on the part of the schools, voluntary on the part for the children to attend. And now we have almost 75% of our 4-year-olds are attending our public schools in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Because we've had such high standards, we then have had some national rankings, but we've become the model in 2 ways. One is, according to this book, The State of Preschool 2008, which was done by a report card by Rutgers University, Dr. Steve Barnett, the first year ranked us as #1 in the number of children that we served percentage-wise. Sandy Garrett and I didn't have any idea that we were serving the most children in the United States in our 4-year-old program, so that was a complete surprise. And so the other part then is, because we have such high standards, we then are the #1, the best model for providing early childhood education.
Well, let me ask you kind of an elementary question, if you will. Why is it important to start at 4 rather than at 5?
Well, some of the individuals now would say it's important to even start at birth. That's based on the brain research, and interesting enough, locally, Inasmuch Foundation, George Kaiser of Oklahoma, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates are now individuals that in this country have decided that the time to start is at birth. They are doing programs called EduCare, which are again at birth up to 4 years of age. Those children are all at-risk children. I prefer to serve all children, but if you have to choose, then maybe that's a place to start. And so not only do we know from research and studying children for many, many years, we have many research studies now to justify this. We now have very prominent men, very wealthy men in this country, in the United States, who are supporting the programs. So starting earlier, children are ready to learn. We know the development of the brain is so big and so rapid during that period of time. Language development, all kinds of experiences. And it's so important that they be quality by a person who knows understands the development of children and knows how to plan an environment and activities that are appropriate.
Okay, I want to get back to that. We've got to take a break for our sponsors. You're watching Dr. Ramona Paul, the Oklahoman of the Year. We're talking about early childhood development in Oklahoma. We'll be right back.
I'm Mike Larson. I'm an artist, and I am Chickasaw. We were fortunate enough to start doing more and more work with the Chickasaws, largely because of Bill Addertubby. We developed, with his help and with his graces, a series of paintings on the Chickasaw elders. I would interview them, I would do sketches, we would talk about their history, some of it phenomenal, and then we would come away from that, go home, and I would do paintings. First thing I will look at when I look at a person is their eyes. You look at their eyes, you look at their hands, you can tell everything you need to about a person. These people portrayed to me strength and character, filled with an integrity and a joy of life. The wonderful thing about it, aside from the paintings, is the way that it brought me back into the Chickasaw family. It has made me more Chickasaw. It has made me more Chickasaw than I ever thought I could be.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
The oil and natural gas industry help provide a revenue that feeds our schools, providing a better education for not only my kids, but for children all over the state.
It will allow the schools to buy better equipment. We'll be able to hire qualified teachers, and all around to have a better educational experience.
The future has never been brighter for our students here.
We should be very proud of the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma.
Welcome back. Kent Myers on the set of The Verdict with our guest, Dr. Ramona Paul, the Oklahoman of the Year. And we are finding out why. Because she has designed the outstanding early childhood development program that we have right here in Oklahoma and has become virtually the blueprint for America's early childhood education. And this thing just started right here with this lady. No wonder you've been recognized. We were talking in the first segment about approximately 75% of 4-year-olds are taking advantage of the program voluntarily.
Yes.
And geographically, is it pretty widely dispersed? Is almost all the school districts
It's all over the
participate?
state of Oklahoma. We have 532 school districts, and about 525 are participating in the program.
Well, by the way, the last thing that we saw here on the set was, before we came back from the break, was an ad for the Chickasaw tribe.
Yes.
And of course, your husband is a member of the Chickasaw tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about their early childhood education center in Ada.
They have an absolutely star program facility in Ada. I took some staff, we went down, they invited us to come down and visit the program. It's a showpiece. It's one of the most nurturing places I've ever seen for young children, and also very nurturing for their staff also. Two things that are very unique. One is that when you come in the entrance, there's a slide that the children go down, and that sort of makes that separation from parent very easy. They love to do the slide. In fact, they close the slide off when they go home in the afternoon because they might not ever leave. These are just very unique things that you don't see typically. Another one is an exercise room, and it looks just like an adult exercise room, except all the equipment is very, very small. And when 3- and 4-year-olds are on that, they're learning very early the value of exercise, which could help with the quality of life and health that's a real issue of our children in Oklahoma.
So not only is our State Department of Education promoting this, the tribes themselves are promoting it.
Yes, very much so. It's a showpiece for the country to see.
How important is early childhood education in the life or career of an adult?
Well, one of the things that's very noticeable early on is the difference in the experiences that children have in relation to the development of their vocabulary. Children who've had lots of experiences, lots of reading opportunities, will have a much greater vocabulary by the time they're 3 years old, versus children who have had very limited experiences. So we know that that makes a big difference. And if they have, what's so important, at least from my viewpoint, and we have research that backs it, is that it's not just a program where children go and are taken care of and maintained in a safe environment, but it's high quality in terms of all the educational components. The group now that really has taken on the importance of early childhood are the economists in this country. Mm-hmm. And we've had some here in Oklahoma City, and that this is the most important long-range investment that America can make now is in early childhood. So the qualities, one very simple but very important thing is socialization. Being able to function in a group and get along with your peers when you're 3 and 4, those are when you develop those early socialization skills. And employers now will say, and the economists will say, that one of the big issues in our country is the ability of employees to get along with their employer. And so this is when you learn those basic skills as a 3-year-old, as a 4-year-old. The other thing that I'd like to talk so much about too, and I brought a picture so people would know what I mean, is play. Play is how young children learn. And my favorite piece of equipment, other than books and reading, is using unit blocks.
Let me see this.
You can
That's
hold
okay.
that up.
That's okay.
And that's what we call unit blocks. And you can see if you have a long one, then you have halves, and then you have quarters. If you want to learn math, buy unit blocks for your child, and you'll learn your math because it's interactive. Sometimes, in fact, the magazine, Oklahoma Today, said that I said a lot of people think that math is a paper pencil learning process. Well, it really isn't. It's interactive. This will make an engineer, an architect, and it's a medium that can be used over and over and over again with all ages, and you don't need to buy a lot of other toys that sometimes break or have batteries.
Well, the economists that have studied this, have they done long-range studies? In other words, has it been in effect long enough that we are able to track the success or lack thereof of students that have had the early childhood education in the business world?
The original longitudinal studies began in 1965 and were called High Scope. And so they have followed those children into adulthood, and this is quoted frequently. There's reduced crime, they're higher productive, their salaries or their income are higher, they're less in debt. If they are teenagers, they are, and if they have pregnancy, they're more inclined to then get their education, which is very, very important. We know the best predictor of a child's success in school is the mother's education. So it's very important that we have everybody get their education and continue. So those studies have gone on now for a very, very long time, and there's many factors that show how effective they are and how important they are. I think it's rather interesting when you talk about it to think, well, why does it make such a difference in early childhood to have these quality experiences and then to adulthood? Well, it just does. And it's just real simple, and when you work with children and understand children, you're around children, and then you look at all the research studies, and again, referring back to the development of the brain, it's just the right thing to do if you want to have that for your child. Again, we emphasize so much that it's on a voluntary basis for the child to participate. The other thing I want to mention that we're doing so successfully in Oklahoma that we're being recognized for is what I mentioned earlier was collaboration. We're taking the public school teacher that's paid by the public school, and that teacher may go into a child care center for 2.5 hours. So the child care center turns into a public school for 2.5 hours a day. That saves on transportation, where children sometimes would be transported to school. The children stay in one place, which we know is better for them. It provides the extended hours that parents need, that most of our schools are not providing those extended hours that are very important to today's world, where most everyone is working. And then also the kind of collaboration that we have with the school, with the staff. And so we have teachers we do partnerships with Head Start. We have teachers in faith-based space, and that's turned out to be very successful. We do proper separation of church and state. We've utilized, so this is a huge savings, a cost savings for all these. One of our most favorite is the Assisted Living Center at Jinx, and Bartlesville is building a new assisted living center now and are going to put an early childhood facility with it, because this way the adults that are in those centers can come and participate with the children. And in Jinx, theirs is a 4-year-old program and a kindergarten program, and no one ever wants to leave. And our most recent partner that we're so proud of is with American Fidelity. So American Fidelity right here in Oklahoma City has opened up 2 classrooms, and meaning 4 half-day programs for the children. So we have a corporate partner too.
They've been recognized for that, by
yes,
the way.
And so we're not trying to do this by ourselves. It's just that public school has a standard of certification. That means a bachelor's degree with special early childhood training, and we just think we should have the very best for our children in Oklahoma.
Well, excuse me for interrupting, Dr. Paul. We are out of time, but it is quite clear why you were selected as Oklahoman of the Year, and we're so glad that you would give us your time. You've been watching Dr. Ramona Paul, the Oklahoman of the Year, talking about early childhood education. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll be right back.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa. where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
We're back. Thanks to Dr. Ramona Paul, the Oklahoman of the Year, for joining us on The Verdict. We hope you enjoyed the discussion of early childhood education. Quite an important element in our educational system, and one that, based upon the resources devoted to it, is extremely efficient and well run and quite productive. If you want to know the website for the State Department of Education, we have that for you. It's www.sde.state.ok.us. And of course, we have our own website, theverdict.tv. I hope you'll get on our website, tell us what you would like to see, and we will make every effort to accommodate your request. We always do, and sometimes we're able to actually bring it about. Well, congratulations again to Dr. Paul. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.